My name is Gary Whitstock, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today for this video on advanced water gardening.
My name is Greg Whitstock, and together we're going to show you how to design and build water gardens that we've been doing for the last few years in West Chicago, Illinois. The name of our company is Aquascape Designs, and we're going to take you through a step-by-step process and exactly show you how to put on our filters and make the whole system very low maintenance.
Define a successful contractor as A, somebody that enjoys what they're doing. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, why do anything? So I would say the very first thing of if somebody is successful or not, are you enjoying it? If you're making money and you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? Obviously, two, if you're going to build a business, you need to build a team. The hardest thing to do in business is to build a team. So are you the one actually performing the work? You know, you can make money that way and you can still have fun that way. But if you want to build a business, something that is actually, you know, when you work in your business, you generate cash. When you work on your business, you create equity. And so for success, I think you need to ultimately be able to build your team and be able to have the opportunity. You can still work in your business, but at least have other people that are working on your business in terms of the things that you don't want to do. And if you want to work in your business, then someone has to work on it, and that's a very difficult thing to do, because if you're not working on it, who is?
When did you, in your mind, I need to help them with marketing or finance or, you know, all that stuff?
I think a lot of the things that came with helping others was as I was growing my own business and I was doing seminars and I was going to events to learn how to run my own business, and then I was simply talking about the things that I was applying for my growing business to help them with their growing business. So it's universal business principles. So I specifically remember reading the book by Jack Stack, The Great Game of Business, and all about, you know, financially blueprinting your business. And I remember bringing that to the certified aquascape, well, bringing that to the contractors, period. You know, and I remember, you know, the contractor's guide to break even came from understanding sales, overhead, and gross profit margins. And so it was stuff that I was using for my own business. And that makes sense, because the business really started off of, here's how we build ponds, and then here's how we are profitable as a business, and just teaching the things that we were doing. So as I was learning and doing them, I was teaching them to other people for them to implement and hopefully be successful, because ultimately my goal was not to sell pond products. Ultimately my goal is to help you succeed, and hopefully you'd buy my pond products. Well, we tried to franchise. And I remember the binders being this big, and I remember how much boilerplate stuff was in there about bathrooms being clean and things like this that, of course, were irrelevant for a construction business. But it was, you know, Fran Corp just did the 90% of that was boilerplate, and 10% was, you know, 20 products and 20 steps or whatever. But as soon as that idea blew up in my head that it wouldn't work because contractors don't have money burning a hole ready to invest in something like that, I thought, I'll just take these two giant manuals that are, you know, and I'll put them into a catalog, and I'll put tech people on the line, which is how you actually started, right, in the tech departments, and we'll teach them what we're actually doing, giving away the information. Now, at the time, we had no competitors. So it was a lot easier to do that, because I, you know, didn't even really think about competitors at the time. I just thought, no one else is doing this, we're going to teach them. And then, of course, everybody else saw the money, which is why they came into the marketplace. Well, my first seminar was in the summer of 1995, and I specifically remember going to Dallas with my best friend from junior high school and high school that was living down there. And I thought, well, how can I pay for my plane ticket? I go, I know what I'll do. I'll charge $49, and I'll send out, you know, marketing materials to landscapers to come learn how to build a pond, and we'll do it in a seminar room at a Holiday Inn or something down in Dallas. And I remember I sent a pond kit down there, and I basically went through the process of what I had been perfecting, the 20 products and 20 steps, in the very first seminar I ever gave, and standing in front of people. Zero fear, because I was just talking about what we did. There was nothing manufactured. It was all, here's how we do it. You put a bioflows on one side, skimmer, dig up, put the pipe down, dig up the pond, put the, you know, and I went through that process, and then at the end I sold the pond kit for $1,200 or whatever it was, charged $49. I had 25, 30 people come in there. And I remember that was the very first time I had somebody challenge me on charging for consultations. And I remember just talking. I remember having zero fear doing it, because all I was doing was talking about what we actually did. And that was the very first one. And then that was the first time I heard somebody say, yeah, but down here in Texas, you can't do that. And I'm like, that was where the idea then became of, well, why don't I actually go out and build ponds in Texas and everywhere else, which is, you know, 1996 started the seminar tour of doing that.
Build a pond.
Build a pond days, yep.
If you want to experience for yourself the secrets of a one-day pond, attend a Build a Pond Day in a city near you. Build a Pond Day gives you the opportunity to work alongside aquascape foremen and other contractors as you work together building a pond from scratch. Build a Pond Days are held every July in Chicago and every August through November in cities throughout the country. Don't miss the chance to attend one in your area.
It was all about how to efficiently build a pond. So before aquascape, A, there was no manufacturers of professional grade equipment, and B, every water feature that they would build, and when I say water feature, it's really just ponds back then, would be built differently. And I appealed to their nature of how do you put a patio in? You put the screenings down, you put the level base first, and I said, this is the same way of building the pond. You know, you put the filters in, you put the pipe in, you dig the hole. So I went through this step-by-step process. It wasn't about selling the product, it was about teaching the contractor how to build a profitable project with our product.
So the Build a Pond Day at my house, you had promised to give me a pond because I sold $100,000 in water features, and we didn't have the time for our construction company to do it because we had other stuff happening springtime. So you were like, I have an idea, why don't we do training? We'll invite contractors out. We'll promote that you can come and learn side by side with our construction team. You could learn all the latest techniques. We're gonna build a pond. But that project was big for that time. 2 biofalls kind of set, which was instead of one, it was before we had a grande. I was playing around with a wetland filter, so I had I had 2 skimmers. One of the skimmers went into a shallow pool. It was maybe a foot deep, and it was a liner with a bulkhead on each side. I had a 1,000-gallon-per-hour pump dumping in on one side, and the water would just trickle through the gravel bed, and it was just planted with all types of cattails and crap. And then that pipe came right back into the pond.
Here we are at the beginning of this project on a nice sunny day. On this job, we had lots of help, as you can see. Periodically, we invite landscapers from around the country to join us for some hands-on pond building.
The training videos really came out of a necessity that not everybody could make the aquascape training. So when we started manufacturing and producing products to be shipped out to people, they started having technical questions, and that's where the ideas of doing seminar tours came out. So in addition to the seminar tours, we thought it would be good for someone to have VHS copies of tapes so that they could actually get refreshed on the products that they're learning about and the training and the styles that we do things and our methodologies for business.
Advanced Construction Techniques, the video by foreman for foreman.
That old car might be worth money. Call Victory Auto Wreckers at 860-2000 for a quote.
In this video, you'll follow along on a design and sales consultation. Landscaping your waterscape.
Really the manufacturing of the equipment, followed by the training that we would do in seminars, followed by, hey, if you're not at the training or you need a refresher from the training, the aquascape videos. That's how basically the training videos got developed.
The following sequences illustrate some maintenance tips that you should know as the installer.
Guess who gave away the most free Creative Paradise videos? The guy selling the most ponds! I wonder if there's a correlation! Give away the videos! Because a $5 video will sell a $5,000 pond. Give the things away. Ernie went through 600 videos and he sold over 100 ponds. I have 32,000 other customers that say, but the video cost me $5. It doesn't cost you $5, man. You run into a guy on the street, give him a video. My father-in-law trying to bond with me, I got married in 97, and in 98 we went on a fishing trip to Wisconsin. We went out, and after about 30 minutes of fishing, I'm like, okay, I'm done for the day. Like, I've done my fishing, sitting in a boat. And he's like, well, I'm not taking you back. So I jumped off the side, and I swam a mile back to the pier, went up to the cabin, and started writing that book. And that week, he went out fishing for 8 hours a day, and I wrote for 8 hours a day. Thought it was the greatest thing ever. I was sitting in a cabin up in Wisconsin, had an absolute blast sitting on the back porch writing that book, and he had an absolute blast fishing, and he caught fish, and I wrote a book. This was these two guys right here.
And the tech team and
The
stuff,
tech team,
right?
oh yeah, we had
Chris and
we
Tony
had
and
a team of I don't even know how
yeah,
many people.
Aaron. Yeah, it's got the old. There's the old check valves right there. There's the polypipe pictures.
Oh really?
Like the difference
Oh,
in diameter and
Wow.
polypipe that we were talking about. We designed this to be like, it's for a pond builder to have like in his truck and travel with them. So we wanted to make the thing durable, you know, because it'd be out in the field. What if they left it out and it's, you know, on the patio, whatever, and it rained. So we had it printed on Tyvek paper, which is like, you know, untearable, unrippable paper. They use it, Tyvek, they use it for the, you know, side of homes and stuff during construction and everything, which was a great idea. And you can't tear it. It's like, I mean, there's no freaking way. Like every page is, I mean, it's, you'll wrinkle it before you have. So we get this thing, and we're like, we thought we were so freaking smart, Tyvek's paper, with a printer on the spiral bound here, did this square, which apparently you're not supposed to do because it pulled right out. So like what the? I mean, you lost your freaking marble. What the is I mean, it just come right out of, I mean, you put 2 fingers, untearable paper that you can tear right out of the. So we didn't know what the hell was wrong, and then the printer realized they screwed up, and they're like, oh crap, these aren't supposed to be square, they're supposed to be circles, like hole punched and stuff. There's the corrected version on it. There's probably not many of these things around anywhere. Yeah.
That was on my bookshelf at home, sitting
Yep.
next to the other one.
Yeah, now this, and now you can't actually pull them out. Yeah. Yeah, that right there, I can pull them pretty freaking hard. And this I can almost probably do with just 2 fingers. Yeah, right.
Advice I always give everybody is the smaller the project, the more profitable the job. The bigger the project, the less profitable, at least as a percentage. There's more things that can go wrong. So the easiest thing to do is the elementary school fountainscapes. You don't go from addition and subtraction, elementary school stuff, to trigonometry, high school level stuff, unless you've first gone through the courses. So start off with fountainscapes, maybe progress up to pondless waterfalls after you've gotten the basics down to fountainscapes. Maybe go to ecosystem ponds, which is high school level, and only then, and maybe only then, would you go up to college level material, which is recreation ponds. The challenge is contractors are opportunistic animals. If they get 2 or 3 projects under their belt and then they get a big commercial project, they'll look at the dollar signs of that and they'll jump for that, which we're not saying not to do that, but what we're saying to do is bring in an experienced certified octave contractor to help you with that, and maybe not make any profit on that, but use that as an education so that you can learn on the job training.
I do believe that what we do is very, very powerful. It transforms landscapes. It brings life, you know, to a property in so many ways that you cannot replicate with anything else. There's no other type of landscaping. There's no other type of hardscaping. There's nothing you can do. So I think it's a very unique discipline, but you have to stick with the course and you have to start small. You know, you see so many guys that get these massive projects and, you know, they're super excited, you know, and it's like, man, you gotta, like, that's dangerous. Like, you can get burned really, really fast and put yourself in a tough position. And I push these big projects. I love building them, but there's no way I would have tackled them 20 or 25 years ago. Before we did our Build the Pond Day tours, we built hundreds of 11 by 16 ponds before we actually went on the road and even taught them. And then we built hundreds more. So it became second nature. It was like, we just go so fast. But that allowed us actually the room to grow. And I think a lot of people short circuit that process. So it might sound appealing, but it's like, man, just stick with those little things and really, really, really master it. In my opinion, doing a smaller pond that is highly visible all the way around it is actually can be quite complex because it's 100% visible. The attention to detail, so like some of the contractors over in the UK are doing right now, like their attention to detail is unbelievable because they're working in a lot of smaller properties, so that's just normal there. That type of a concept is, I think, really, really important because you can blow out rocks and make them bigger, but you have to make sure that that stuff works on a smaller scale. And then kind of grow yourself naturally into everything. You have to learn your numbers. We didn't really start doing job analysis for 10 years, you know, I mean, at least until we started actually having to teach it. You know, Greg's like, we got to go on the road and start teaching these things. We have to go back and evaluate these projects and look at profit margins. And, you know, we kind of knew it intuitively, you know, just kind of what the costs were and everything. But man, going into this business, you know, you might go into it for the love of being outdoors and some of these cool things we create, but you have to become a little bit of a businessman as well. And also understand, do you want to become more of that business person or do you want to stay out in the field? I chose to stay out in the field because That was the reason I came to Aquascape in the beginning. I am not an office person, so I realized that very, very quickly. And unfortunately, I have some very, very successful friends that hate their jobs. They have a countdown for when they're going to retire. I'm like, I haven't even really thought about it that much because everything is always different. So kind of embrace what you enjoy about what we do and focus on that. I think it's easier to find somebody who's good in business to actually run the operation, and you could focus on the design, the installation, the sales, and all that type of stuff. Understand your strengths and weaknesses. And I also think that Greg was very, very good with that. He's not a micromanager like the way I kind of picture them. I mean, he can in certain instances be on top of you on everything, but he gives a lot of freedom, and that allowed me to kind of find my own place here at Aquascape. They are, like what you just said, is they underestimate the amount of time it's going to take. So they haven't done enough to understand what it's actually going to take to pull it off. And they see all these videos and they're like, oh my gosh, look how easy this is. They did this whole thing in 15 minutes. So they tell them, they're like, oh, this is actually a lot of things that actually, that have to take place in order to be able to do it in that type of a time frame. So thinking about what your abilities are when you're new coming into it, not only from an installation standpoint, but also hand-holding, knowing the right questions for the customers, knowing what potential problems are. You're going to destroy the yard. It's just going to be a war zone. And they haven't actually seen that, so they can't even tell the customer. Like, they haven't done enough saying, yeah, I'm going to destroy everything. Like, don't leave, ideally, leave your property because this is going to be crazy. So I think they underestimate the money, the amount of time it takes to build, the cleanup work, the hand-holding that it's going to take with the customers.
Yeah, I would say the one thing all contractors have in common, and their greatest quality is also their Achilles heel, is confidence.
Confidence.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody's like, I can do this. Like, how hard can it be? I can do this. Yeah. And we see this, like we're seeing this a lot in the last 10 years. The amount of information that's out there for people to learn from is cutting the learning curve, like not even in half, like in a quarter. Like you get the Fuentes brothers who've only been doing it for a couple years and they're artists of the year. Diego and Dan up there in Canada, they'd only been building ponds for a couple years. The difference between the Fuentes brothers and Diego and Dan, they researched the shit out of it. Right. They watched everybody's videos. And they even found what styles they really liked. So they gravitated towards this person or that person and then followed those more. But they liked this, like from Team Aquascape, but they loved this from Alan Decker and they loved this from John Adams. And the education that's out there will greatly reduce the learning curve. It's the people that don't take advantage of that. Like if we had that when we started, like, holy cow, where would we be now, right? Yep. Like, I remember sitting down with you at a bar, and I was much too young to be sitting with you at a bar, and we were drawing different edge treatments. What if we did this with the liner? And what if we folded it like this?
I remember it.
Yeah, we picked up a lot of women that night. Well, for me, it's super, super easy. The hardest lesson I've ever learned was make sure you put labor into a job. It's really, really, really hard to be profitable if you're not charging for the time that you're out there. So yeah, don't forget that.
It was a big project.
It was a big project. It was what we would call a swim pond now. It was a big recreation pond. So many things worked in my advantage that we still ended up making some money off the project with skipping labor. I also had a boss that didn't seem to really care. He's like, hey, learn from it and just get the job done and you figure out how to get it done efficiently. And so I had a homeowner that helped me. I had a team that supported me. Ed and Greg said learn from it, and so it worked out okay for me. It's definitely a mistake you could have gotten fired for, but I feel like if you can be arrested on your first day of work, forgetting labor wasn't going to get me fired either. I've always tried to lead by example. If you want your guys to be on time, you be on time. If you want your guys to work hard, you should work hard. If you want your guys to be professional, you show up professional. Just little things like that. Everybody is going to love to hear what Ed's doing out there in Africa, and 100% they should. You're like, but it's also taken Ed a lifetime to get to the point where he's comfortable enough to do that job in Africa. If you asked Ed 10 years ago to tackle that same project, I guarantee he would say I wasn't ready to do that project 10 years ago. What's happened in the last 10 years has put him in a space where he's comfortable enough to do it. And if you talk to Ed's wife, Ellen, she'll say this project, Ed put everything he's got in it, like mentally, physically, emotionally, like he left everything on the table. And you shouldn't have to do that to make a customer happy. Ed's doing it because he pushes himself to get better and better and better and better. What's he gonna do next? Like, Moon is the only other place he can build a pond. The last thing, if I were to give anybody advice, whether you're a contractor that's been doing it for 30 years or just getting started, the only thing you have to do to be successful is call customers back. That's it. Over communicate. The more you can communicate, the easier it is to build that relationship, and building the relationship with your customer beforehand and then maintaining that relationship afterwards is so, so important. If you're booked out 6 months, make sure you're constantly contacting that customer throughout the 6 months. I'm not saying you got to call them once a week, but after a couple months, say, hey, I haven't, like a small little letter, a small little email, a little note, haven't forgotten about you, still super excited about your project. Things look like they're on schedule, things aren't on schedule, whatever that letter's like, but just communicate with your customers a lot, and then a lot after you've built the pond. Remember, these customers, this is an emotional purchase for them, and so once you've finished building this thing and their jaws are on the floor and in disbelief that they now own something they've been dreaming of having, calling them 2 weeks later, 3 months later, 3 years later, and just reaching out means a lot to them, and odds are that'll result in a sale of some sort. I love doing design consultations. It's the favorite part of the whole job. I thoroughly enjoy the meeting with the customer. If that's nails on a chalkboard to you, meeting with the customer, maybe you shouldn't do it. You should hire somebody to sell for you. For some of those people that are super nervous about meeting with a customer, pretend it's not a customer. Pretend it's your uncle. Pretend it's a neighbor. And how would you have a conversation with your uncle, your aunt, a neighbor, family relative of some sort, best friend? Even better. I treat every customer like I've known them forever. And I'm gonna speak the same way to them as I would speak to my neighbor or a 30-year-old past friend. And then it takes the pressure off. And don't worry about the pricing. Remember, you've already established a budget over the phone before you've got out there. You have one focus, getting them to like you. And when you focus if you go in as a salesperson, you're gonna come off cheesy. Just talk to them like your friends. I always use the analogy like it's a blind date. Just be yourself and you'll do much, much better. Don't try to be something you're not. Just be yourself. And all these guys, whether you've been doing it for a year or 30 years, your knowledge compared to a homeowner is 1,000 times more. You've gone through training, you've gone through this, you've seen a bunch of different projects. A homeowner has seen one or two. Like I went on a consultation earlier this morning and a picture he showed me was horrendous. He's like, I really like this. I was like, that's not the style we're gonna build this in. And that's not the rock that you talked about earlier. And so I like, listen, if it were mine, I would not build it like this. And I picked that water feature apart a little bit, like notice the volcano is stone. He's like, oh, I was just looking at the water. I was like, I'm looking 3 or 4 moves past that. Like, what's the rest of it look like? The opportunity for plants and everything else. And every single contractor has a world of wisdom past what the homeowner might have. Just go into a consultation relaxed, excited to meet the person, focus on getting to know them, and design the pond second. Like that should be like down the road a little bit.
The thing besides the teammates that I'm most proud about is the tribe. Ponds done right, customers serve right, the CAC mantra. The majority of water features.
Or mantra.
Mantra. Whatever, it spells the same. The mantra, basically, asshole, is the majority of water features that were in the ground were poorly built, not properly built. And obviously, when somebody has a bad experience with any product, they tell a lot more people than when they have a good experience. So the competitor is not the guy that's a certified contractor that's bidding projects, approximately the same cost that you are, that's designing waste approximately the same as you are, skimmers and biofalls or intake bays and wetlands. The competition is the guy that's making it out of concrete, that's using swimming pool filter technology, that's building high maintenance water features that upset customers, selling it for less. That's the competition, not the tribe.
It obviously brings, I think, a professionalism to your consultations. Like, I'm not just this lone wolf out here winging it. I'm backed by hundreds of other people that are doing the same thing. So when I talk, like if a customer ever gets into like, hey, what about, you know, bottom drains, or what about UV light sterilizers, or this or that, I'm like, listen, not only have I installed a couple thousand of these skimmers, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands, I don't even know the numbers, there are 100,000 skimmers that have been sold in the history of Aquascape. We're backed by all of that practice too, you know, and all these other projects that are successfully using the exact same product. So to be able to stand behind a product is pretty easy, because it's not just used by me, it's used by hundreds and hundreds of other people, thousands of other people, and for a long time.
70% of our sales, as you would very well know as the VP of Business Development, don't go to certified aquascape contractors. We sell B2B through distribution, 500 distribution points, access points. Any landscape contractor, any contractor could walk in with a wholesale account and go put a pond in. And maybe they're following the program because they do it, but a lot of times they don't even know that the program exists. They're just buying a kit off of a distributor's shelf, and I can't impact what that person does. You know, maybe if they follow our social media, they certainly go to our training, you know, it is what that is. But I'm not going to recommend that one-off contractor. And maybe they're not one-off. Maybe they do 2 or 3 or 4 ponds a year. I don't know. Or water features. But the only people that I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to put our stamp of approval on, are people that we know are following our methodology because they've gone through our training. They've submitted projects built, you know, with our products, with the pictures and everything else. And then I feel comfortable recommending them to consumers. I'm not going to recommend somebody who hasn't been through our training, that hasn't submitted pictures. I'm not going to recommend them, because when people hire a certified aquascape contractor, many of them just associate them directly with Aquascape.
When it originally started, and the philosophies and everything are still the same today, it's an extension of Aquascape. Years ago, it's like, oh, we got to set up another place over here, and we can do stuff in California, we can do stuff in Florida, and it's like, that would be a nightmare, you know, I mean, just to try to manage it. So having partners that we've met through Build a Pond Days and some of those early classes that we did, so when calls were coming in, if we couldn't do it, we would set them up with a friend of ours that we're like, oh, I know Steve over here, and he's going to do a phenomenal job for him. You love him, give him a call, he'll take care of you, etc. So it's truly an extension of Aquascape. So everything that we do, we teach them the philosophies, we give them the training, we give them, you know, the tools for everything, contracts, everything. Yeah. I mean, we just kind of lay everything out. You know, I think a lot of customers, actually, Ellen just had a woman over at our farm for one of her yoga events, and she was adamant that this woman in Ohio hired us to build the pond. I'm like, we didn't build that pond. Yeah. And she's like, no, she said it was Aquascape. I'm like, well, it's probably one of our certified contractors. And she's like, outside of Columbus. I'm like, yep, it wasn't us. I'm telling you now, it was not us.
The name is big, right?
It's huge.
And so people drop the name all the time. And when you're certified, you get to drop the name. And whether you're in Ohio, whether you're in Columbia, you know, they found us through searching and found Aquascape, and then did more and more research. It's the name has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And so setting standards is really, really important.
The CAC network it's Aquascape. They are us in their local markets. And without having a standard, it really means nothing. And to me, the CAC program is all about standards and integrity. From an industry standpoint, there's no other group of contractors that have like a set standard when it comes to doing things like the CAC program does. The whole group is built to make each other stronger.
Because of the relationships of all the different CACs, they've also been huge mentors, whether they've known it or not. You know, of course, Ed and Greg, you, Dave Kelly, Colleen, but CACs and being able to call all those guys at any time and be like, hey, how are you dealing with this? What's going on with the family? Like, all those relationships is really, really big. The CACs are helping the industry get better as a whole. And I know it means a lot to Ed and I. Of course, it means a lot to Greg and Dave and you, and hopefully they all see the value in it as well. How many CACs have been part of some of these collaborative builds that they would have never been able to go do if it wasn't for building ponds and being part of Aquascape? How many people got to go to Africa with Ed? How many people got to go to Colombia and Spain and Australia and build a pond for Shaq? Like, you could say if that was your one collaborative effort, you win, because nobody else gets to say they got to build a pond for Shaq or do anything for Shaq.